Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 258. My name is Vala Afshar, and I'm one of your co-hosts with Liz Miller for the next hour. Elle Froze, our producer. And we're going to go around. Welcome to the green room. And in reverse order, introduce our guests for this episode. And we'll start with Liz. Liz, where are you dialing in from?
The other Liz.
No, the other Liz. Liz Wiseman, please.
Okay, I'm Liz Wiseman. I'm a management researcher and author, and I've written a few books, Multipliers, Rookie Smarts, and just finished Impact Players, how to take the lead, play bigger, and multiply your impact.
Awesome. Joelle?
Awesome. Very good. Joelle Smith, the Chief Experience Officer of First Advantage. We do background screening. I am dialing in from the beach. Decided to have a nice walk on a chilly ocean stroll there. But anyway, happy to be here and looking forward to it.
Thank you. Dorie?
And hi, everyone. I'm Dorie Clark, and I'm the author of this new book, The Long Game, How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World. I teach at Duke and Columbia. I live in New York City, and the power behind the throne is actually my cat, Philip.
Nice.
Terrific. All right, Elle, let's start the show.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce, and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Liz, myself, and our distinguished guests your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV, and we'll do our best to answer them live. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Liz Miller. Liz is Vice President, Principal Analyst at Constellation, focused on the org-wide team sport known as customer experience.
I feel like I need to spell it out.
While covering all core pillars of CX, sales, service, marketing, Liz spends time zeroing in on the business demands of today's chief marketing officer, the evolution of customer engagement, and the rising requirement for a new security posture that accounts for the threat to brand trust. Liz is a 28-year marketing veteran. She started when she was 4, and is known in some very influential circles as the CMO whisperer. Prior to joining Constellation Research, Liz oversaw research programs and content for Chief Marketing Officer Council, developed thought leadership agenda for CMOs around the globe. She's an awesome follow on Twitter at Liz K. Miller, Miller. Welcome back as co-host Liz Miller to DisrupTV.
I'm so glad to be here, but I really had to come to interview my sister of the Pioneer Valley because it's going to be like Women's College Unite, Mount Holyoke grad, whoop, whoop, again, graduated when I was 4. So let's just get that off the table. I graduated and then immediately started working in marketing. So it's, a lot of fun, but I'm so glad to be here. I'm super excited. So thanks for having me, Vala.
It's our pleasure.
I'll let Ray out of the box later.
Yeah. Okay. Our first guest, Dorie Clark, strategy consultant, executive coach, professor, best-selling author, and keynote speaker. Dorie helps individuals and companies get their best ideas heard in a crowded, noisy world. This week, Dorie was named again one of 2021 top 50 business thinkers in the world by Thinkers 50, and was honored as #1 communication coach in the world by Marshall Goldsmith Coaching Awards.
Wow.
Dorie is a keynote speaker and teacher at Duke University School of Business and Columbia Business School. She's the author of Entrepreneurial You, which was named Forbes Top 5 Business Book of the Year, as well as Reinventing You and Stand Out, which was named #1 Leadership Book of the Year by Inc. Magazine. Her new book, I have a copy.
Liz, what's your problem?
Yeah, that's right, Liz. Rookie co-host. Oh, I see.
Oh, very nice.
Very digital. I'm the digital evangelist. You can download her free long game self-assessment workbook and learn more about this incredible book at DorieClark.com, The Long Game. Former presidential campaign spokeswoman Dorie has been described by New York Times as expert at self-reinvention and helping others change their lives. Another awesome follow on Twitter. We only invite awesome people on Twitter on the show at Dorie Clark. Welcome back, Dorie, to DisrupTV.
Vala, thank you. Always a joy to see you. And Liz, good to see you digitally. We were just hanging in person a couple of weeks ago, so that was great.
I know. I love it.
Liz, you have the first question.
Okay, perfect. So I absolutely loved your presentation at CCE. It filled my head with way too many thoughts. So thanks for that. But no, I thought it was terrific because one of the things that you said that there was a difference between being busy and being important. Like, okay, so let's dig into that. Again, wow, like that's a big thought. And everyone's got a book now. See now, and I just got my chapstick, guys. I don't know what to do here. Okay, so why do we confuse those two things? What is it that gets being busy and being important kind of stuck together and confused in people's minds?
Yeah, I like your hand gestures because it's true. It is about wires getting crossed, right? So the first section of my new book, The Long Game, really digs into this question because it's not that most people think that being a long-term thinker is bad, right? There's not like an anti-long-term thinking constituency out there. The problem is that we think it's good, but we don't do it. And so I really wanted to try to excavate the question, why? What's holding us back? If everyone says it's so great, why are we not actually acting on that? And one of the biggest problems is that just about everybody these days feels like they are too busy. And that's not wrong. They are really busy. But part of the challenge is that we're doing this to ourselves. In a lot of cases, I mean, yes, we have things we have to do, but we are often making discretionary choices that are leading to downstream consequences where we really don't have time to think. And obviously that is problematic. And so the way to adjust it is, we have to sort of ask like, okay, well, why do we keep doing this stupid stuff that we don't want to be doing? And there's some very interesting research out of Columbia University, a researcher named Sylvia Bellezza and her colleagues. And they've looked into the fact that in contemporary American society, and in a number of other Western cultures as well, there is basically a huge linkage in many people's minds between being busy and being important. And so if we actually, it's essentially a form of humble bragging, right? Like, oh, gee, Liz, how are you doing? Oh my God, I'm so busy.
Rochambeauing over exhaustion, right?
That's right. It's basically like the societally acceptable way of being like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so in demand. I am so incredibly popular. Wow. Thanks. Glad you asked. But we actually hesitate sometimes to take the actions, to make the steps that we need to extricate ourselves from it because it would cause an identity crisis.
I got to tell you, after you said that at CCE, I wrote down like on a good old fashioned piece of paper and stuck it on my computer that busy equals self-inflicted wound.
Nice.
Right? Because after you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I am doing this to myself. I have the capacity to say no to things that make me overly busy. It's okay. So yes. I love that point. I loved it.
I can't wait the next time somebody asks me, how you doing, Vala? I'm going to say, I've done nothing this past week.
Yeah.
Chilling. A month. I was just thinking.
I dare Vala Afshar to say chilling like a villain. I'm sorry. I like, that would be so good.
Everybody knows where I am because on Twitter, I kind of share everything. So it's like my digital diary. People know what I'm doing. Was there a turning point in your career where you said, I'm keeping a to-do list, but I need to keep a to-don't list as well because that's how I can prevent myself from, as John Wooden say, go fast, but don't hurry. Not always feel busy and work on things that may not be the best value for you and what your goals are.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the truth is, I think for most of us, it's not necessarily one revelation after which everything changes. It's a continual reminding of ourselves because recidivism is very easy when it comes to the crime of busyness. So we have to constantly keep refreshing our memory. But actually in the opening of The Long Game, I tell a story. Yes. Yep. Love it. I tell a story that about a particular time that did stand out in my mind because it was painful. It was sort of this archetypal pre-COVID moment where I was up at 3:00 in the morning because I had a 5:00 flight that I needed to catch from New York to Los Angeles. I was going to arrive at lunchtime in Los Angeles. I worked the full day. I went to the client site, worked the rest of the day until 6, had dinner that night by myself at what would have been like 9:30 at night in back in New York. Fell asleep, worked a full day with the client the next day with my coaching client, flew to Atlanta in time to have dinner in Atlanta with more clients, and then gave a speech the following morning. And, that day, it all worked out, right? I mean, it's like, thank God, but it wasn't flight delays. It all worked. And yet it was just still miserable and terrible. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And I think a lot of us have those moments where we have to sort of, smack ourselves a little bit and be like, look, that's preposterous. You don't really have to do it that way.
Yeah. Makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense. Wow.
that's such a great point. But there's also something that really interesting in the book that you talk about, because I didn't think of it this way. I'd always thought of it as just kind of like, you think of it as like the list of things that you've done that you stick on your like resume, right? But you talk about it about building a life portfolio. Okay, so let's dig into that. What does that mean, and how does someone get it? What do you like? I want one.
Yeah, let's build that portfolio. Well, in the long game, what I realized in writing it is there are actually a stunning number of parallels between just how we live our lives and good investing advice, right? Like if you literally, for even somebody who's not into investing, if you literally know one thing about investing, if you, like give us a piece of investing advice, even someone who has no idea, they're going to say, diversify. And we know it's a really bad idea to take all your money and put it in one stock. That's probably not going to end well. And yet, so often in our lives, that's exactly the mistake we make, whether it is over investing everything in one job and like maybe ignoring our families and ignoring our health or whatever, or, over investing in a job and then you get laid off from that job. I mean, there's a lot of danger in that. So I am somebody that is all about how do we de-risk our enterprises? And if we are smart, if we're able to allocate just a little bit, you shave off just a little bit. I talk about in the long game, Google's 20% time, where you have this little sort of experimental budget. Even if 20% is too much, fine, do 10%, do 5%, but find whatever you can so that you are investing in something outside of your day-to-day, because that's what's going to keep you interested. That's what's going to keep you engaged. And that's what's going to keep you ahead of the curve so that you don't find yourself just, somehow caught flat-footed by a change in circumstance. You have something else you can fall back on. And so, I mean, literally this week, for instance, one of my journeys over the past 5 years has been investing my 20% time in learning how to write musicals. And so 2 days ago, I had a 10-minute musical that was part of a showcase at a venue called Symphony Space in New York. And it was awesome. For the first time, it was performed in front of a live audience with professional actors. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Where's the video? Wait a minute. Can I YouTube it like right now?
I wish you could. There is going to be a video, but it is not ready yet.
Okay.
We look forward to it. Please share with us when it's ready. So, I believe, developing a solid personal brand or becoming recognized as an expert in your field like yourself is all about long-term thinking and doing and adjusting. You've written about the 3 steps of being a recognized expert: content creation, garnering social proof to build credibility, and building and scaling your network so people can amplify and stress test your ideas. Can you talk about the importance of long-term thinking when you as an individual are thinking about bolstering and building your personal brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ultimately, part of the inspiration for writing a book about long-term thinking really was this quest that I've personally been on over the past 15 years of building my business, and then later on advising and coaching other people as they're working to build their business and as we say, grow their platform and things like that. Because the truth is, you really do in some ways have to make a leap of faith, because almost anything you do in terms of brand building or platform building is not going to show any results at all for a period, not of days, not of weeks, not of months, but of years.
Yeah.
What my rule of thumb that I advise people, just, because I think that accurate expectation setting is so important in this, because otherwise you risk people really getting frustrated and giving up too soon. But when it comes to becoming a recognized expert in your field or inside your company, I typically advise people that it takes between 2 to 3 years to show basically almost any progress, and about 5 years in order to show demonstrable progress. And, that sucks. I wish it were faster. But, on the other hand, the time's going to pass anyway. So are you willing to embark on that quest? But I think it's important for us to know what it takes before we make the choice to engage. Now, I'm curious, Vala. I've known you for a number of years. I think we first met maybe in 2013 at BIF in person, and I knew of you before that. So even back then, you were just churning it out on Twitter and elsewhere. How do you think about the personal branding quest that you've been on?
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's, as you said, it's not a hygiene issue; it's a health issue. So when I be out of breath going up a set of stairs, it's putting in the reps of sufficient sleep, caloric intake, and exercise combined over a period of time, and then I feel more fit, more healthy. I think when it comes to creating content, garnering social proof, and then scaling through by leveraging your network, that's you got to put in the reps. You really have to put in the reps, and it took me a long time. I mean, I did all of this in terms of like social and writing and speaking after the age 40.
Yeah.
So I had like an immigrant silo mentality that you consume knowledge, you protect that knowledge, and you extract as much value as you can from that knowledge. And that got me all the way to CMO before I joined Salesforce. But it was really in my 40s when I recognized that networking is about giving, and it's the flow of knowledge that opens doors and brings you joy. So that silo mindset shifted to flows. Stocks of knowledge versus flows of knowledge. But as you said, it took years, years. So you have to have, a long-term view and some optimism and grit and persistence, which you talk about in your book. And it's great advice for especially folks who are dealing with the pandemic for the last 20 months, because those time scales that you mentioned, for some, it might be even longer because they don't have those random collisions like you and I had at BIF, a Business Innovation Factory conference. So how do you earn a sponsor or a mentor when for 20 months you haven't been in the office? And it's only, very, very deliberate meetings about projects, versus those random collisions. It's really hard.
Yeah. The thing that I love that you both talked about that is, I have always found core to even just the words thought leadership is you're both talking about standing the test of time as well, right? That it's not just an idea you throw out there, like green is awesome, right? Like it's not just a random thought. And I think a lot of people confuse content, which can be great and thought-provoking and awesome, with thought leadership, because, back to Dorie, your point of I'm busy, that makes me important. If I said something and I call it thought leadership, that makes it even more important, right? It's like I've elevated because I'm a thought leader now. But thought leadership is when it's like neither of you intended to be thought leaders. It's not like at 10, Dorie and Vala were sitting in their rooms like, I'm going to be a thought leader. Like that just wasn't part of this journey. But you guys have both delivered those thoughts that have stood the test of time and have weighed in that longevity, which I absolutely love. And so,
Liz, I just made Thinkers 1 million. So, I don't consider myself,
dude, I'm not even on the
leader.
Thinkers list. I'm in the like the girl that gets called when like someone didn't show list. So that's cool. Like that's my list.
50 is too small. It's way too small.
I'm down with that jam. Like it's totally fine. Like I'm on the
But Dorie, it is about humility and accessibility and generosity. All of us who've had the good fortune of being connected with you for many, many years. Everything that you share is with deep reflection, radical transparency, humility, a beginner's mindset. So it's not loud. It's not in your face. It's the power of pull because of all of the incredible research and experiences you've had. Any advice for people that are maybe young in their career and they're looking to make a list of some sort or get that privilege of having a sponsor or a mentor? What can they do when they're beginning in their career playing the long game?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I just briefly want to pick up on Liz's point first about the question of thought leadership. This is something I think about a lot. A few years ago, I did an episode of the Harvard Business Review IdeaCast podcast, specifically talking about this question of the interview frame was it was something like, is being a thought leader gross? That was like the title, I think.
Great.
And it was, the wonderful woman who was the host at the time. She's like, yeah, I think the term is a little bit like icky. Like, I don't know. And so she's like, okay, Dorie, defend it. And the way that I like to think about it is, okay, here's what's gross. It is gross if you are like, I'm a thought leader. Because that's like so pretentious.
Like, this is thought leadership. Like, ew, don't tell me a lion doesn't have to roar. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like very much like a lady doth protest. So yes, I love that. But it is, of course, a huge compliment when somebody else calls you a thought leader. And so the way that I like to think about it is like, okay, first rule, don't call yourself a thought leader. But second of all, if somebody else says it about you, that's very nice, because what it implies, I think the term itself is actually something worth aspiring to, because number one, if you are a leader, that sort of inherently means you have to have followers, right? You have to be saying something good enough that other people dig it. So that at least is some kind of a show that people find value in it. And being a thought leader implies that there is some kind of intellectual or content or heft to what you're talking about. You're not an influencer. You are known for your thoughts. So I feel like both of those things are good as long as it's applied to you by other people.
That's terrific.
Yeah, so just wanted to mention that. But to Vala, to your point about, for younger people who want to create a brand, or, maybe it's not even a younger person, but somebody who's been maybe more internally focused, and they're like, all right, it's time to have our little coming out party here. How do you do it? One of the things that I hear the most, because, I have a lot of folks I coach, or I run an online community focused around this for professionals that are looking to kind of build their platform. And so I hear a lot from people that one of their first concerns is, well, I don't know what I would say, or I don't know what I have to offer that would be distinctive or that would be meaningful for other people. Like, it feels like, all the good stuff has been taken, essentially. And so for those people, my life hack, and this is something that I did personally, is I think it's really useful to actually start out, like, don't even worry about like what you are going to say, like what your big declaration is to the universe. Find a way to interview other people, because the truth is, if you're connecting with other, with other quote unquote thought leaders in the field, number one, you're building your network so they know who you are. Number two, you are getting smarter because you're actually getting much more intimately familiar with how they think. And then number three, it gives you a way, once you've taken in enough information, to begin to start to say, well, I liked that piece that Vala said, and that piece that Liz said, and that piece that Ray said, and blah, blah, blah. And it enables you to kind of triangulate and create your own formulation that feels right to you.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love it.
That's actually the secret why Ray and I started the show. Spend Fridays with super smart people. We have Dorie Clark.
Turn the book around.
Back of the book. Yeah. The Long Game, How to Be a Long-Term Leader in a Short-Term World. Follow Dorie on Twitter at Dorie Clark. Thank you so much for being an awesome thought leader, influencer, and a friend. Thank you.
Thank you both. So great to be here.
Oh, so great to see you again, Dorie.
Wow. She's awesome.
She's awesome.
She's even more awesome in person. Like, she's awesome.
Speaking
of awesome, we only have awesome guests.
I know. Hey, Joelle, what's going on? Hi.
Hey, my gosh, that was awesome. She is fantastic.
She is
so
great. Our next guest is Joelle Smith, Chief Experience Officer at First Advantage, a leading global provider of technology solutions for human capital background screening, verification, safety, and compliance. Under Joelle's leadership, a team of nearly 500 global product engineering and data scientist staff drive the organization's technology innovation and growth. Joelle's team have released numerous novel and patent-pending solutions that enable Fortune 100 businesses to onboard faster, so important, and hire smarter amid changing talent landscape. There's a talent war going on, so this is critically important. Named as a TA Tech most influential TA thought leader. Somebody else said it.
Somebody else said it. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't say it. It's fine. It's fine.
Joelle is passionate about leading by example, delivering tangible business outcomes through disruptive innovation. Since joining First Advantage in 2017, Joelle has also advanced the company's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Her work in the vital areas earned her the Woman Worth Watching distinction by Diversity Journal. And most recently, Joelle has been recognized as an inspiring leader by Inspiring Workplace for her shaping diversity and inclusion strategies during her tenure. You can follow Joelle on Twitter at Joelle M. Smith. Welcome, Joelle, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Joelle.
Here.
I really feel like Dorie's conversation was like the perfect setup.
I couldn't believe
for
it.
your
I was like, this is
conversation.
amazing.
Like I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, she's talking about like, what do young people do? Like, what do we do with all this happening? So it kind of leads into the first question we wanted to ask you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, is there really a great resignation happening? Like, is this a thing? Like, cause I just kind of need to know, like, are we really in it? Like, is it just a headline? Are we doing this? Like, and what's the real impact going to be? Because I think we can talk about like people are unhappy. There's this great resignation that's happening, but what's happening?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think Dorie landed it perfect talking about the life portfolio. Because I think everybody in the last few years has kind of lifted their head and figured out what do I want to do? What am I doing? And what impact am I making? And we're seeing it. So, we talked a little bit about this screening. I'm fortunate in being able to see kind of before the jobs kind of get started, right? So you can kind of see these trends in where some of the generational populations are shifting, moving, and how often they're moving. And it's growing. So is it real? Yeah, it is. And, I think it puts an added pressure on some of the companies to be able to adjust, accordingly. But I think what's been talked about as far as kind of the Great Resignation, the data that we have over the last like 24 months or so, about 10% each year, we're seeing what we call kind of like multi-screen. So people who are applying for a job getting screened multiple times, 2 or more inside of 1 year. So you are seeing a big shift, and a lot of articles are writing about the 30 to kind of 45 range. What I'm seeing and what we're seeing is actually more on the early stage. So like that Gen Z market. We actually just did a bunch of research around this. And one of the crazy stats was 56% of them are looking to jump inside the next year. And they haven't been in the market very long, right? So we're talking about people from 96 to 2005. So they're less than 25 years old. And they're over half of them are looking to jump, so what is it? Are they not feeling fulfilled in their job? Are they not feeling like they're contributing? Is the company not lined up with what they want to do? And there's just so many options out there, and companies, went through a lot. People went through a lot, so where can you find happiness and that balance and not oversubscribe on your job, oversubscribe on that one thing? That's very much what Dorie was talking about. And we're really seeing it kind of in the numbers. So is it here? Yeah. Is it really about quitting the job though? Or is it about needing more fulfillment? And I think that's what I find so, interesting about it. So
I think when people start talking about it, we kind of have this image of people just like walking in and being like, I'm out. Like I'm like they're going out in like this blaze of glory. Like I'm unhappy. But that's not really what's happening. Like, it doesn't seem like that's what's happening. It seems like people are on like a quest, like they're searching for something.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what's leading. Like, so, but I think when people write about the Great Resignation, and when I hear people talk about it, it's always like that. Like the kid that puts his resignation on the McDonald's sign, right? Like, like that's what I have in my head, but I know that's not what's happening. So
no, it's definitely. So I'm a member of the CNBC Technology Council, and we had our in-person meeting this week. First time in 20 months we met in person. There were about 50 CXOs of very large companies, the biggest brands in the world. And top of mind was absolutely the war on talent.
Absolutely.
Carl Quintanilla, who's a CNBC anchor for Tech Check, this week tweeted Jeffrey's findings on the Great Resignation. And the Jeffrey's finding was, number one, compensation is the reason for employees. Number two, burnout. It's prevalent across all industries. Flexibility is the new normal. Like you're you're bringing in talent by recruiting your competitors' talent.
Basically.
So, and the work from anywhere means you have no longer physical constraints in terms of where you get the folks. And then 80% of the respondents to this survey said they actually support a 4-day work week. So your thoughts about, so it is absolutely real, and it's not a McDonald's person, although that's happening too. The 11 million open jobs.
Sure it is, yeah.
Yeah, the service industry is a big part of that. But we're talking engineers, data scientists, CXOs, and people are leaving. Your thoughts about this work from anywhere and this distributed digital only or digital first world, which now enables us to hire people literally from anywhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they definitely are. They are looking. It's every industry across the board. Tech's definitely getting hit the hardest. And you have, I think what people are really looking for and how they're kind of addressing this, they're focused on, like they're personal, obviously what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. But I think the companies are playing a little bit of catch up. It's everybody has had a lot of opportunity to kind of figure out kind of what this new normal is. And I think they were worried so much on their business and how to make things work. I think the employees have been in the process of just, trying to, okay, now we're where we are. Okay, this is the new normal. Now what does this mean? Where are we going? Right. Yeah, exactly. And how is this affecting me? And I think that's some of the things that, companies are trying to adjust to. And that's why with this kind of talent war that we're seeing, you're seeing the competitors, it's like the folks who've kind of thought about it a little bit ahead and have really started to put here's what we are, here's our new strategy, right? Here's how we adjusted, right? We were playing, everybody's trying to figure it out, right? So the companies that have figured it out and put a great message out there and really strong and get people to kind of relate to it and have a culture connection with that, they're the ones that are kind of making it work. And then that's where the people who are maybe not comfortable in whether or not they know what the new normal is, that's more attractive, where they just kind of want to know and they will really be part of something and they've kind of figured it out. So I think it's a little bit of a push and pull from the employee and the company perspective. And I think that's really where we're seeing, a lot of people feel, where they want to be is people who have figured it out.
But I'm kind of curious because are we trying to solve new problems with old solutions, right? So we have these employees, we have people, of multiple generations, especially that younger generation at work, right?
Yep.
Who are really looking for new values and that new portfolio in their careers and in their lives. And I keep seeing so many companies responding to that by just reshuffling the deck on what the job description is, right? So they put the bullet, in the Silicon Valley, we're famous for the bulleted list at the very bottom. That's we have a foosball table, endless snacks in the refrigerator. And, they put these things at the bottom that they think are valuable. Yep. And so now they're like, oh, wait, people are resigning because they're looking for more. They want empathy from their employers. They want a mission and vision from their employers. Yep. They want these big, meaty issues. And we've endless snacks. We just, right. We're taking an old solution of take the same exact job description because we need to hire talent and we're in a talent war.
Right.
Let's put our ammo up top as opposed to putting the battle. Later on. Yeah. But so does that mean we need we as managers, we as hiring organizations, we as companies, we have to change what we understand the value of our jobs and the value of the space they're going to occupy? We're the ones that have to do all the changing. We got to do it now.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, we're looking at it too. From just an experience perspective, it's not just about the customer or what the company is doing. It's about the people inside, the employee experience, and putting that first and figuring out what they want. We actually just was a research study we did just a couple of weeks ago where the Gen Z market prioritizes a company's DEI strategy and a clear vision as a like take the job criteria, like will not take a job unless they see a very clear defined strategy for DEI. And it's not just a bullet on the website or a conversation, right? Kind of to your point.
Yes.
And a lot of companies, again, also in the research, over half of them, and we did a survey on the webinar too, it was like over half of them are like, I think we're like middle of the road. We're still working on it. We're getting, and it's because it's hard, right? So it's how far along are you with where you want kind of the company to be, and then how do you relate to the people either you're trying to attract to hire or that are already with your company, but it's table stakes now. Whereas before it was something that was a nice to have. You really do. You need to know who you are. You need to know what you want to be, and you need to be legitimate about where you're going, and so that somebody feels it and understands that as part of your culture and not just a statement.
And to Dorie's point, you have to have the proof, right? Like Dorie and Vala, we're talking about it. Like you have to have the social proof. It's one thing to have the bullet that says we're an inclusive environment. We love everyone. We want everyone to come as their own person. And then like you're like, okay, great. Tell me how that happens.
Yes.
And then the person talking to you is like,
they're like,
whoa, you come as your own person. Like, like that's not it.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're exactly right. Yeah, absolutely.
In a hyper connected knowledge sharing economy, you can't just throw words out there. You have to live your ethos, and you have to have social proof, like you said.
Yeah.
So in March, my company was around 60,000 then. We're 72,000 now.
What?
Success for
like water on a gremlin over there. What's going on?
And the light switch, literally, I think over a span of a few days, weekend, we had our entire company working remotely, because to achieve optimal speed, you have to design for movement. And being a cloud-first company for 2 decades, we were designed for movement. Everybody could do their job on their mobile devices.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you talk about speed to hire,
Yeah.
Which is so important because, again, when you don't have the talent on your bench or on the court, you're not scoring points. You're losing.
Yep.
How do you design for movement in terms of speed to hire? And why is it so much more important now than pre-pandemic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so critical. So, supply and demand is flipped upside down, right? So companies need employees more than people want to work or are planning to work. So that's changing, right? So, you were trying to hire the same person the 3 other companies are hiring, regardless of the industry that you're in. So getting them on board very quickly and keeping them engaged throughout the entire process is really critical. We actually, when you're trying to bring somebody on board, there's the first part, which is the interview and all of that, and you have the screening, of course, and then there's the day one and obviously the job. But what some of the research that we did showed that if the company does not have a good onboarding, like so basically you're speaking the same thing, you're talking about your true culture and value in the interview process, the screening is seamless, and then you kind of get started. If you do that well, you will actually have your employees stay on average 3 years.
Wow.
If you don't, it drops considerably. And that's because you're not engaged with the person. Like they have a sense of belonging when they come on, like, I know who I'm going to work with. I feel good about this. This is something that matches with me. And now if there's some bumps as you keep going, it's okay, because first impression is so important, and it's really critical to kind of make sure that works up front, and that speed to hire is part of that, right? So you're so pumped to get this new job, and then all of a sudden you gotta wait like weeks and weeks, or somebody's like, oh, Nikki, no, I'm sorry, I know you've spoken with 10 people here already.
Here's a panel,
right? 2 more. And whatever. Okay, now we're going to offer you, but now we're going to do background check, and it's going to take you 5 weeks to get that. Like nobody wants that. It's like, here, how about we do this, and then you'll start tomorrow. Does that sound great? Because we'd love to have you start.
Or when they don't do they say we need to do the background check, and oh, by the way, it's going to take 5 weeks, and oh God, we totally forgot to start it.
Yeah,
I actually heard that story just recently, where they were like, hey, are you gonna take the job? Like the HR people called back and were like, are you gonna take the job? And they were like, are you gonna actually start the background check? Like,
wow.
I've had folks that have joined companies and weeks on the job, and they're contacting help desk. When will I get my laptop?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
They
that's
don't
it.
have the tools. They don't have the tools. to
No,
do it.
exactly. And work from home is even worse, right?
Oh
So you're
gosh,
there
yeah.
and it's
You
like,
get a box.
day one, you don't have a laptop, you don't have your ID, you don't have your email address. You're just kind of like sitting there like, cool, am I employed?
Right.
Or like,
Enjoy setting up your VPN. Yeah,
Right.
like
am I gonna get a paycheck? What's happening here?
Right.
Like, who's my boss? Like, why, so
you're the accidental IT help desk. Like every employee during the pandemic became the accidental CIO of their department of one.
yeah.
And they were
totally.
like,
you're exactly
enjoy
right.
setting up your email. Good
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
luck to you.
Good luck. Yeah,
My
exactly.
last question is that, when you think about like a stoplight, we've had red, everyone's at home, then yellow, which is, you can come back, but then there's a Delta variant and now you're back, is it green? Is it, and of course, orange is the worst state because some go through it and unfortunately that's not the right. Is this stop and start that we've experienced, certainly this year, with the beginning of the vaccination and the Delta variant and some spikes we're seeing even today, does that really challenge companies in terms of the policies they need to have in place in terms of demonstrating flexibility to their onboarding and their existing employees, that we will respond based on science, and that may be a stop and start, but as long as we communicate to you as often as possible and practice radical transparency, we'll get through this together. Any advice for companies that have some rigidity, like, no one has to come back ever, and then they change their mind? No, we really want you to come back.
Everyone now.
Yeah. What can they do to really stay nimble and adaptable?
Yeah, absolutely. So communication is key. And, I always say like communication, it's not about just like sending out the email, or it's about like, have they comprehended, understood, consumed the information and feel good about it. And that when you're at home is really hard, right? Because you're not able to kind of get that pulse and figure out kind of, so I think some of the traditional models of, well, I sent an email out and I know we're going to open on September 1st, but things change and whatever. So it's like those different forms of communication, SMS and just the non-traditional ways, video, right? Video is super hot right now where everybody is obviously here, but it's just like you communicate that message and it's like you understand, you can empathize, you can help people get, and then open up for that reception of information. That's something that I think, and take it and use it, right? So, and make sure people know that you are listening and, the frustration. So we found a lot of success in that from just a communication and response perspective.
Love that. Yeah,
Thank you
love
so
that.
much. That was
Let
terrific.
questions be okay. I love that.
And be ready to respond in an empathetic way. Joelle Smith, Chief Experience Officer of First Advantage. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joelle.
Cheers. Wow, Liz.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm kind of exhausted. Is that bad? Like, Liz, I kind of need to take a nap. Are we okay with that? Like, we'll just take a little break. We'll all come back later.
Put your seatbelt on and get your popcorn
I need
ready.
a brain nap,
Because
having so much fun watching you, but I was feeling so left out because I was like wanting to be like, look, I got Dorie's book too. There it is.
And I still just got my chapstick.
On my Audible.
That's awesome. Okay,
If anyone shows a book again, I just have my chapstick. I'm just telling you,
It's
that's
a
all I got right
beautiful
now,
chapstick.
people.
Liz Wiseman is a researcher, executive advisor who teaches leadership to executives around the world. Liz is the author of New York Times bestseller Multipliers, How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter, The Multiplier Effect, Tapping Genius Inside Our Schools, and Wall Street Journal bestselling Rookie Smarts, Why Learning Beats Knowing in the New Game of Work. Liz's new book is titled Impact Players, How to Take the Lead, Play Bigger, and Multiply Your Impact. Liz is also the CEO of the Wiseman Group, a leadership research and development firm headquartered in Silicon Valley, California. Liz was also named this week, again, as one of the Thinkers 50 top leadership thinkers in the world, 2021 Thinkers list that came out earlier this week. Liz has conducted Liz Miller, we have two Thinkers 50 on one show. That's unbelievable.
I'm not one of them, so I'm just going to reiterate that. I'm just going to.
Big deal.
That's awesome. Liz has conducted significant research in the field of leadership and collective intelligence and writes for Harvard Business Review, Fortune, and a variety of other business and leadership journals. A former executive at Oracle Corporation, Liz worked over the course of 17 years as vice president of Oracle University and global leader of human resources development. Another awesome follow, again, we only have awesome follows on Twitter on the show, at Liz Wiseman, Wiseman. Wiseman. Welcome, Liz, to DisrupTV.
I am so glad
Now
to be
talk.
here.
Yeah, we just.
I've been having a great time listening.
Oh, thank you so much. This is our favorite part of Friday because we get to be students listening to big minds such as yourself. So, Liz Miller, the first question is yours.
Okay, this is a big one because I love the whole conversation. Love that, like, what's an impact player? Like, I kind of feel like I just needed to like throw that out there at you. And I, of course, I need to do it right. And you probably could use a sip of water. So I apologize. I was going to say, but let's like just get right into it because I think everyone's trying to find their space. We heard from Dorie trying to find that portfolio, just heard from Joelle, employees want to jump in. They want to find something new. They're trying to find that fulfillment, but how do they find that fulfillment as an impact player? What does that mean?
Well, an impact player, okay, so it's a metaphor that I'm borrowing from sports. And it's the kind of people who are clutch, who come through when it matters, who like totally need a sip of water, but they're like, you know what? Not now. I'm going to play hurt.
We're going.
But it's the standout contributor who brings value everywhere they go. So they're incredible contributors themselves, but they're also people who make entire teams better. People are confident around them. Like, you know what? We got this because we got Liz Miller on our team. Like, you know what? I feel like we're going to win. And so like people step up around these kinds of contributors. And, and I started looking at this because, I came out of all these years I've spent looking at the best leaders. So I've had this great honor of being able to study some of the most amazing leaders in the world.
Yeah.
The kind of leaders who bring out the best in others, who people play big around, who, utilize people's intelligence. And I noticed that they describe working for these leaders as, a little bit tiring, but totally exhilarating. And then I've heard people, and so part of the honor of studying and writing about some of the best leaders is I also study some of the worst leaders in the world. Yeah, and I write about multiple.
Liz, don't hold back. Tell us who they are. No, I'm kidding.
I'm a magnet for bad leadership. Like people like corner me in elevators and like, no, you think you know bad bosses, Liz. I have to tell you about my boss. So everyone that I know has told me about like the worst boss they've ever had.
Liz will talk.
And I'm like,
it's not Ray. It's not Ray.
It's not Ray. But I had someone clip their fingernails and flick cuticles. So we'll talk.
And so in studying some of the worst leaders, and people talk about, wow, like I came to work all excited to contribute, but
and then it was like
utilized and like they're shut down and they hold back and they're stymied and, diminished is the term I've used. And here's what I've learned. It's this truth that I've learned about this, which isn't really a truth about leadership. It's a truth about contributorship, is that people all around the world come to work desperately wanting to be utilized. Like no one wants to be used, but people want to be utilized and people want to contribute. Yeah. I can't find the lazy people who want like the easy gig. People want to show up and contribute and people crave impact. And when they do work where they contribute fully and they're having impact, work is exhilarating. And even hard work feels a little effortless and fun and exhilarating, like a little tiring, but kind of like a good workout where you're like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm energized. I feel good. And so, I've been really fascinated that people want impact. People want to do work that matters, that has meaning, and people want to contribute. No one wants like
to sit there.
Yeah, nobody wants to turn a crank. But yet I get so many managers say, oh yeah, they're not stepping up. And so I've been looking at what causes people to be impactful. And here's the seed that I want to plant, given what, you were talking about with Dorie and Joelle, is like, we're dealing with this burnout epidemic and the Great Resignation. And we're all thinking it's because people are working too hard. And I do not think this is the case. Now, I think there's a lot of people who are working hard.
Sure.
But working hard does not cause burnout. Burnout, more often than not, is caused by a lack of impact.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fruitless work.
We're
Yeah.
going through the motions. We're working hard, but we're not
Awesome.
making a difference. We're not seeing where our work is going.
Yeah.
Like I want us to look at this burnout epidemic and say, this is not about taking our foot off the accelerator. This, like, great, give people some time off. Like a little R&R would do everyone some good. But what we really need is we need to create workplaces where people can contribute fully, where people are making a difference and having impact. I think that's why people are out there looking for new jobs. It's not that I want to
love that point.
I want to do work that matters. I actually want to contribute fully, not less.
Yeah.
I love that. So sticking to sports analogies, I've had coaches throughout my career say you can't teach speed. I don't know if I agree with it because I've actually seen folks become faster and more mobile at what they do. But can you teach clutch? Like when I'm in Boston, when David Ortiz in the 13th inning beats a grand slam, or when Larry Bird wants the ball, or Michael Jordan, all these athletes, Brady, in every sport, you know who the clutch person is. You know they want the ball, they want the puck, they want to be at bats when the game is on the line. And that's not true for all players. It takes something special, self-confidence, awareness, whatever it may be. Or they put in the reps where now they've earned the right to be clutch at that moment when it matters most. Can you teach clutch? Is it something that can be taught?
Well, I think, it's a good question. It's part of why I did this research, because these people, everyone knows who they are. If you ask any manager, who are your impact players?
For sure. They know.
This person, this, and then you ask why. I don't know. It's like a certain thing. Like Vala, he just gets it. Like he gets it done. Like I can give him the no look pass. Like he's clutch. And so my work on this was like, I want to know what the je ne sais quoi is. Like I want to know, what is this thing that people are doing that makes them so valuable, that makes them so influential and impactful. And so, the book is basically, here's what that anatomy looks like. Here's what they do. Here's what they do differently than other people. And there's small differences. Like, when there's a messy problem and it's not that department's domain, it's not this department's, it's not like his job, her job. It's kind of like nobody's job. It's out in no man's land, but yet it's really important and it's kind of everyone's job. But I think most of the important work sits in no man's land.
Yeah, for sure.
And most people,
that used to be called Liz's Land in my last company. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was just like Liz's Land. Like there you go. It's
that's an indication of impact player, because like what most people do is they do their job. This is my job. This is my part of it. Here's what I do. And the impact players, they do the job that needs to be done.
I love that.
And there's like a get it factor. One of the impact players on my team, Karina, I say, you know what? She gets it and she gets it done. Yeah. And it's that first thing. She knows what's important.
Yeah.
And so the book kind of breaks down what are the 5 things they do very differently than other people. And they're all situations around uncertainty and ambiguity. Okay. Then that was the easy part of the book. Then, well, wait a minute. What part of that is teachable and what part isn't? Now, I have to say, my background is I come out of learning and development. I ran Oracle University, and I also am a natural born optimist. So I look at everything, and this is probably why I did well at Oracle, because every hard thing anyone ever gave me, I'm like, it can't be that hard.
There's a solution for that. Like, come on, yeah.
I love that.
I'm like, how hard would that be? And so I'm a practicer of the naive yes. I say yes to things, and I don't mean I say yes to everything, the busy thing.
Yeah.
I say yes to things before my brain kicks in and figures out that I don't know how to do that. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually harder. So my inclination is to think it's all learnable. This is all doable. Just say yes. But then my brain kicks in and I went and did more of the research looking at what part of this is easily learnable and what part of it isn't. And there are some parts that are hard to change, certainly about other people. Like as a manager, it's hard to go there are certain people who just get it and other people don't. It's actually one of the things that's harder to teach. So a savvy leader, smart organization, what do? Take a look at the model, hire for the things that aren't easily coachable, like speed, height, and and then coach for the things that are. And so part of what I was really excited about is like saying, here are the parts that you put in your hiring profile, and this is what you put in your training and your coaching plan.
I love that.
That's
A couple
awesome.
things that are hard to teach. Humor.
You gained so much street cred with the no look pass reference.
Right. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good. Yeah, we're good on
Liz
that.
is definitely a sports person. That's
We're
awesome. That was great. But okay, so how did you choose? Okay, so unbelievable topic, super important. How did you choose who you were going to feature in your book? With a particular characteristics. By the way, my Twitter feed is full of references to your book by other people, like Brené Brown. Hey, this is an impact player by Liz Wiseman. So it's congratulations.
I know. I loved it that Brené loved the book.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's
awesome.
Really awesome. It's really awesome. But how did you pick? How did you pick the folks who you're going to feature?
Well, first of all, we didn't pick who was an impact player. So we went to managers and we're like, who are your impact players? They're like, Liz Miller, one of those people. And so then we have 170 of these. And then I'm like, I want to interview all of them. I want to write about all of them. But then I had to pick. So I picked kind of this real diverse mix of people. And, there's a couple favorites in there. Two of my favorites are at Salesforce. And then, I've got some favorites that are over at Target and some at SAP.
That's awesome.
And so a few of them are my favorites, but I'm really picking from a mix of industries and a mix of jobs and a mix of levels. Some of them are senior executives. Some are quite low level. Some of them are, really kind of front office and visible jobs. Others are very behind the scenes. Like one of my favorites is actually someone who didn't pop out of my research. Is I'm writing the book, and this is during the pandemic, and we've got someone who's living with us, and he's a surgical resident at Stanford. And I'm telling him about the difference between people who do their job versus do the job that actually needs to be done. And I'm describing kind of the mindset and the characteristics. He's like, that's like JoJo. And I'm like, who's JoJo? He goes, oh, JoJo, the surgeon, the scrub tech down at Valley Med. And I'm like, well, tell me about JoJo. He goes, oh, yeah, when you do surgery with JoJo. And so a scrub tech, their job is to make sure all the surgical instruments are clean. And then when the surgeon asks for them to handle, it's scalpel, it's that moment.
Sure.
And he's like, that's not what JoJo does. So JoJo, first of all, he lays out all the instruments in the order that they're going to be needed so that they're like ready in a moment's notice. And during surgery, he's not listening for that requested instrument. He's watching the surgeon's hands. Like, what is the surgeon doing? What's next? What's important right now?
Right there.
Surgeon. Okay, now this is a part of this academic rotation. So there are not just experienced surgeons, there are residents. Fancy word for surgeons who don't yet know what they're doing.
Right.
But yet are operating on people, like, got their. And so when JoJo's asked for an instrument, he doesn't always hand over the one that was asked for. He hands over the ones that is needed.
That's needed.
Wow.
That's amazing.
He hands it over, and he's now telling a surgeon who's been through 47 years of college, and he's saying, here, why don't you try this one? And nobody pushes back because he does it gently. But young residents are so grateful he doesn't just do his job. He does the job to be done. And even, I talked to some of the senior surgeons, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we go to JoJo before surgery to find out what instruments should we be using and what's the best tool for the job.
Wow.
And they're encouraging. And so there's all sorts of people. JoJo is one of my favorites. I just love the idea.
So being able to have your anticipatory muscle, JoJo is anticipating, I guess the famous Gretzky, go where the puck is going, not where it is.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's watching what's important right now. And I think it's actually one of the skills of people who have a lot of influence is they're not just doing their job. They're paying attention. What's important? What's important to our team?
Right.
Important to my boss.
But they have a wider view. And I think that's the thing. It's interesting what you're talking about, because it's the thing that people miss about that statement from Wayne Gretzky's dad, right? Is because it's not that Wayne Gretzky was so good at looking down at the ice and seeing the puck and figuring out where the puck needed to go. It's that Wayne Gretzky had the capacity to not be in his ego of, I'm the greatest of all time, I'm the GOAT on the ice. he had the capacity to zoom out and see the entire game and see the entire play start to happen. JoJo kind of zooms out and can see the entire field of play, can see these, the surgery, the surgeon, the patient, everyone there. And that's what I love about what you're talking about, impact players, right? Like think Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy. Right? Okay.
Those three.
Right. Like I know
those
you
three.
don't, but that's why I bring them up, Vala. Go over in Celtics land for just a second.
Yeah.
But it's because Magic Johnson always knew he was going to have that great moment because James Worthy was always there,
Running down the
time
court
and
on the
time
wing.
again.
And now there's a story behind Magic, and we're probably getting close to our time, but I'll see if I can share this fast. Like there was a point where Magic was all about him. And when he was in high school, his coach
Arguably.
would say to him, because he's a phenom.
High school
And his
champion,
coach said,
NCAA champion, rookie champion. Why not? I mean,
Irvin, every time you get the ball, I want you to take the shot. So he does. So he scores a lot of points. They win every game. They will win with 54 points, and Irvin will have scored 50 or 52 of them. And it goes on win after win after win until they get to like one particular game, nothing special, not a championship. The game's over, celebration's over. He's a hero. The other players are leaving the gymnasium with their parents. And this young man, I just love this idea that this high school kid sees the faces of the parents who, of course, came there to see
Their kids shine.
their kids shine. And what do they get?
magic show.
Right.
Magic, early version of, Lakers Showtime Magic. And it gets him. And he made this decision that he would use his God-given talent to help everyone on the team be a better player. So it's like he plays big, but he's not just seeing the whole court, like where can he go? He's seeing the other players.
Right.
He's seeing their parents. Like, what can I do to help that player shine? And I think it's this, what I learned about these impact players, they're not prima donnas. They're not showboats.
No.
They're not
trying to be. They're not trying. I think what's so interesting about what you're talking about, and even if you talk about, someone on a team, when I think about my old teams and my impact players, the one thing I will say about every single one of them, not one of them came to work thinking they were going to be an impact player. Not one of them took the job because they're like, I'm going to be an impact. I'm going to be the king. I'm going to be the queen. I'm going to rule this. They said, I want to go do something great. And that's how they did it. But yeah, gosh, we could probably sit here for like another hour, either talking about sports or talking about leadership. And
Liz Wiseman could be
down with that
for ESPN.
Wow.
She has
Yeah.
so much sports knowledge.
I love it.
You are awesome.
I love it.
It was Liz Wiseman, author of the new book, Impact Players, How to Take the Lead,
So
Play
great.
Bigger, and Multiply Your Impact. Thank you so much. You crushed it. Grand slam. Thank you. Thank you for being a guest. You're terrific.
All of
Thank
it.
you.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz.
So good talking to you both.
Thank you so much. Wow. By the way, I'm so glad Ray wasn't here for the episode because he doesn't know squat about sports. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
He'd be talking about golf.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, Ray, what did you think of so-and-so play last night? He's like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I love it. That was so much fun, Vala. But can I come back when the guests are like,
Listen,
I don't know, like you don't have any bad guests though.
Joelle and Liz were unbelievable.
Like,
this was the fastest hour of my month. Forget
So
about day or
good. So
week.
good. And thanks so much for having me. Thanks for entrusting me and being in this box next to you. You know I love and adore you. So thanks for having me.
You are awesome. And the show wouldn't have been as great if you weren't here. Okay. So next week, we don't have a show. It's
No show.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, Turkey Day. We're going to eat.
I think it's my favorite holiday. No gifts, football, food, family.
Yeah.
So,
Chilling
no
with the
pressure.
fam. It's all good. But you've got a hot episode, 259 coming up on December 3rd.
And we just conducted Liz Wiseman was our 790th interview. So
Dang.
we're getting closer to the 800 mark in 3 to 4 weeks. Episode 259, which will be December 3rd. We have Patrick Neef, founder and CEO of IT Visor and managing partner at Boyden Executive Search. We have Gary Bowles, chair for the future of work at Singularity University.
Nice.
Author of The Next Rules of Work. I want to know about the next rules. And Kelly Bessel, global cybersecurity lead at Accenture.
Nice.
Another awesome.
That's going to be a great, because talk about where people are burning out. It's security.
Security. It's
It's
machine
harsh.
learning, and those threat vectors are getting super, super complicated. Man, your purple team better be good. It's
gonna be a great
because the red
episode.
teams are getting really good. Okay, Liz, your closing thoughts on episode
My closing
258.
thoughts is I have watched Mark Benioff's face this entire episode, and it's freaking me out. I love him. I love you. But that book faced out there in the corner is crazy, man.
Good book.
No,
It's
listen,
a good book.
awesome. I think that the key thing that I'm taking away from hearing these three great guests is make intentional choices about where your life needs to be and wants to be, and then try to make sure that everyone else around you has the opportunity to be the impact player that they want to be, because then that's going to get you to be the impact player that you need to be. So hopefully I can do that.
Think
What about
long
you?
term. Think long term. Care
Yeah.
about the experience, and don't limit your contribution to your job description. You can do those three things. I think you're in good shape. Liz Miller, thank you so much. Episode 258 is in the books. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.